What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Viall Files Going Deeper edition. I'm your host, Nick, joined by the household. We got the sweet boy Justin, Allie, and Leia with us today. And it's a very special episode because returning to the Viall Files, the one and only, the love of my life, my fiance, soon-to-be wife, and mother of my child, as a guest, returning as a guest. Are you? No, you're not even a guest.
I'm definitely not your pop culture correspondent today.
No.
She's mother.
No.
Mother.
She's a mother.
Mother. Natalie Joy is with us to tell our birth story.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. Yeah, it's
I'm
been
so
really...
excited.
How's your heart?
My heart is full.
Oh,
Yeah.
wonderful.
Oh.
Welcome back, babe, by the way.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so
it's
good to have
been
you.
a while since I've been on this couch.
It's been a bit. We've missed you.
Have you?
The household's missed you. The household extends to you, the listener. You know, everyone really is a part of the household who listens to the show, whether you like it or not. You know, some of you are, permanent household members. You've been with us for a long time. Some of you guys kind of visit here and there.
Treat it like a Airbnb,
Like an
a little
Airbnb.
hotel.
Yeah.
Come in, come out.
Some of you guys are squatters.
Loitering.
You're not even welcomed, but you don't leave.
Who's that, Nick?
But we appreciate you all for listening. And so it's a very special episode for us. Before we get into our birth story, though, let's run through any news that's going out there. I know Tom Sandoval is on the cover of a New York Times expose that dropped on Tuesday this morning when we're recording this episode. Wow,
It's a wild one.
He's the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah.
The title is How Tom Sandoval Became the Most Hated Man in America, which I feel like
Title
is
is
retourical.
yeah. It's like we know. I
We
feel
all
like they
know.
could have had it's an excellent article. I feel
It
like
is really good.
I felt like the title could have. It's like we know how.
Yeah.
A couple of takeaways for me. Starting off strong is he needs to fire his publicist, Riley.
Oh my God.
That was wild.
She was featured way too many times in this article, and
The fact that she's also interviewing him
Yeah,
is
right?
bonkers.
It started off strong with a background in crisis management,
mhm.
and then it kind of fell off the cliff from there.
She does not live up to her title.
What were some of the best quotes from that article regarding her? Like, she seemed as curious about his life as much as I was.
We were also joined by Riley, who's on Sandoval's new publicity team, which has a background in crisis PR. I assume Riley would be impediment, but my fears were put to rest when she didn't flinch at the Danny Masterson comment, which that comment was very valid.
Yeah.
Tom Sandoval said, I feel like I got more hate than Danny Masterson, he told me, and he's a convicted rapist.
That is a valid
I
comment.
agree.
I mean, to put some perspective on things, what Tom Sandoval did was wrong. It's nothing compared to what Danny Masterson has done. It was not necessarily the mainstream news that you would think it would, given the horrificness of what he has done. That is a valid point by Tom Sandoval. His valid points ended there, though.
I was going to say his comparisons weren't all there.
Yeah.
No. That
this
was.
one,
It started off okay.
This one was. But she did not flinch at that comment. Riley is 23 and has watched Vanderpump since she was in middle school and seemed as interested in Sandoval's life as I was. When Sandoval described how, despite their gnarly national televised split, he and Maddox have continued living together, sequestered in separate parts of the 5-bedroom home and communicating via assistants, Riley was curious to hear more, in quotes. So all of her stuff is still here, Riley says. Like, you don't want to wait till maybe after the reporter leaves to ask these follow-up questions?
Wild.
Wild.
I mean, usually in these types of like exposés where a writer will come to your house, like they're not just interviewing, they are observing you. It's an uneasy feeling, Sometimes, a New York Times or a Washington Post, you think this is like a big deal. I had a couple of these opportunities when my book came out. And like you're not just being interviewed, you're being observed. So in addition to their questions that you're answering, that they may be commenting on your living room, your kitchen, your body language, anything else that was going on in the house. Natalie wasn't there. She was visiting home in Savannah at the time where I conducted an interview. But had she been there, Natalie would have been a subject of the interview. Now, when you have a publicist there, sometimes they don't even allow publicists to be present for things like that. But if they are, the agreement is the publicist won't really interject and they'll be almost silent unless like something were to come up. They might say, hey, we're not answering that question. They might say things like, this is on background, but I'm not, and add context. Background being like off the record.
Mhm.
But for his publicist to just interject questions.
They bring up the infamous Kristen sleeping with Jax and Tom punching Jax at the bar in season 2, season 3, what was that? And Riley remembered watching that episode with her middle school friends. We were all like, this show is epic, she said. Sandoval, dude, it was. It was so cool, Riley said. Like, they're just having this back and forth.
My take is that they met this day.
Yeah.
It says that she's a new publicist, and I really feel like she just met him that day and she was more curious about his life than
She couldn't help.
She's
about
just
doing her
fangirling.
job. She forgot why she was there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I also think that they used her for suspense because there's a line where it says, I looked over at Riley who was typing furiously on her phone. Like, it's like, is that really, like what you're saying? Like, they're going to comment on everything, but is that really necessary?
For the writer to say that?
The writer's saying it about Riley. So it's
Well,
like
that
she's,
was after he said, I asked Sandoval why he thought the scandal got so big. I'm not a pop culture historian, really, he said, but I witnessed the O.J. Simpson thing and George Floyd and all of these big things, which is really weird to compare that to.
Yes,
I
it
think.
is.
But do you think in a weird way it is a little bit the same?
Nope.
He says.
No.
And that is when she looked over at Riley, and Riley was
fiercely.
doing her job and was immediately texting all of her
What?
upper heads and is like, we have a crisis.
Do we know who she was texting? Maybe she was texting her middle school friends.
Being like,
That's
OMG, can't believe.
Because a publicist on site would just, again, that's where they might interject and say, hey, can we shift the conversation or try to, a background in crisis PR. That statement from Tom, bit of a crisis.
She was acting after the fact. Like,
Yeah.
she didn't do
Texting
anything.
on your phone, what is that?
I'm so also confused how she has a background in crisis PR at the age of 23.
Well, it's
think-
entirely
I think-
possible that she,
the company that she works for is Crisis PR, and she just
Oh,
got
not
hired.
her specifically.
Not her
Okay.
specifically. Yeah.
Why would they give Sandoval the brand new, like, first day on the job,
They're like-
you're going to be
They're
working
like, let's
for the
give the
most
guy who needs the
unhinged.
most help.
Maybe that's what he could afford.
well, and it does say that Riley's boss is his publicist.
Oh, so
she
she
was
sent.
busy.
Oh,
She was
okay.
probably
His boss was
pissed.
busy.
Yeah,
How'd
so
it
she's not
go?
like necessarily the direct
Well,
publicist.
I have a publicist, and then she has a publicist who work for her, and they're part of my team. The thing about publicists, though, there are some really good ones. There's your Trees of the world, Taylor Swift's publicist, very professional, very,
Megan Smith of the world.
Megan Smith of the world. And then there's the Travis Kelce's publicist of
Yeah.
the world, where like many of a publicist got into being a publicist because they wanted to, they started being just big fans of celebrities. This is how they got access to celebrities. So a publicist is very tapped in to the inner workings of celebrity life. And it's very obvious interacting with a lot of publicists that you have to find ones that, know how to be professional, because ultimately they got into the biz because they liked being around celebrities,
Right.
and it started as fans. And Riley sounds like
A fan.
a fan.
A fan of Vanderpump. Oh, you're a fan of Vanderpump. Why don't you take this one? That was probably her boss's approach, and
Yeah.
that backfired.
It was a wild article.
I think she was texting with somebody at Bravo because then the next day, Riley texted and said he'd rather you not attend today. And then the article goes on and says, what was it that he said about O.J. Simpson and George Floyd exactly? Like, that's what
So the
Bravo was
executives
saying.
and everyone, his
know what
publicist,
that call's
everyone starts coming out being like,
Yeah.
wait a second.
it's a very tone deaf comment. So
Yeah,
it
I
was
mean,
bizarre.
despite the overwhelming sensation that Sandoval was, there weren't worldwide protests. And yeah, the scale
You
of
can't
George
compare.
Floyd, not to mention a man died. Yeah, it's
And not to mention
Nicole
an
Brown
alleged
was murdered.
yeah.
That was a racial topic as well with the O.J. Simpson trials, and so that was so to compare yourself to a worldwide or national situation that involved death and discussions around race. It was a leap way too far for
Maybe a
Tom.
bit of a stretch.
But I think what this article does point out, which I have suggested, it's just like it's not an excuse per se, but he doesn't seem to know better. You know, it's like it doesn't register with him. There's a lack of sophistication. You know what I'm saying? Because
I mean, there's a specific quote where it says Sandoval is so well trained at narrating his innermost thoughts out loud that he sometimes has to remind himself not to do it outside of filming.
yes,
So I mean, he's just unfiltered.
no, he is Tom Sandoval of Vanderpump.
Mm-hmm.
There is no character. There is no like.
And it says that in the article too, that there's just no differentiation between who he is on camera. And one of the parts of the article that I love the most is when they were getting ready to sit down and record, Sandoval was like, do you want to like record this?
Yeah,
And he thought it wasn't recording. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, he was worried that they wouldn't catch his OJ comment, maybe.
It's. I mean, yeah. And then the article does like talk about, which in a very fascinating way. Again, like what Vanderpump became, which is like a reality TV show of like when Melrose Place back in the day, 90210, even Friends, like popular scripted shows in the past that were shows about group and friend dynamics and ancestral dating and things like that. And Vanderpump just kind of became
One of its kind.
a show like that. And then, you know, almost the sacrifice that it, you know, took for these characters, you know, and what it was. It was just kind of fascinating.
What were your thoughts on what the article had to say about Baskin talking about how he wishes Sandoval never happened because of what season 11 has become and the future of Vanderpump given the scandal?
Well, it's interesting because there's been so many rumors about Vanderpump potentially being canceled after season 10. So that doesn't really quite make sense because Vanderpump, even if this is the last season of Vanderpump, they got one more season out of it. And they also got record ratings for season 10. I mean, it's interesting that he said that, but I don't know how genuine of a comment that is. But again, we're only speculating off of rumors about how long this show had left.
Did anyone else know that SIR stood for Sexy Unique Restaurant?
I did not know that.
No.
No.
Now I want to go.
Yeah, I definitely didn't want to go before, but now that it's Sexy Unique,
Let's go.
I'm kind of interested.
You guys haven't been?
I've been,
Oh,
yeah.
No,
I've been too.
I have not.
It is not nothing to write home about, in my opinion.
Well, that's what I've heard. Also, interestingly, this article says that Raquel made $19,000 per episode for 18 episodes.
Let's do the math.
342,000.
Yeah, we did the math.
Holy shit.
$342,000.
And that's why
For
when
18 episodes.
when she went on the record and she's like, I was paid like an intern, Lisa Vanderpump was like,
Babe.
no.
No. But Baskin said, are we supposed to give her retroactive payment for having a clandestine affair for 8 months? Because remember, she was like, I asked for a raise. I am shocked to hear that she is making $19,000 per episode. But it also makes me curious, what is Tom Sandoval making?
More than that.
Well, didn't the article said it was like for season 1, all the cast members made $10,000 for the whole season. And now cast members are getting up to $35K an episode. So I'm assuming he is one of the longest running cast members, would be one of those in the 30s.
And at 19 episodes?
Is every season 19? Or that was just...
Or no?
18.
Just that
18.
season, yeah.
18.
Oh.
Season 10 had 18 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
That does provide a lot of context to the griping of Bethany Frankel, who probably, I think in her heyday, was making close to 7 figures filming a season of Housewives. And again, there is no shortage of crazy, desperate people willing to embarrass themselves on reality TV. And when that's what you're competing against in terms of a slot on a show, it's not quite the same as actors who really hone in on their craft.
And Tom says that. He says at the end of the interview, he says, and now I don't have very much respect for actors. I'm like, y'all try to do this.
Oh.
I'm like, okay.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, what Tom is willing to do and sacrifice his character and credibility, his reputation for the sake of entertaining television, because it is. I mean, it is not for everyone, and it is not easy to do, and it is a sacrifice. I don't think anyone looks at Tom with respect. It's more, I think people are in awe of one's ability to go that far for the sake of the show. I have embarrassed myself on reality television, so I'm not one to necessarily talk about someone's willingness to do this, but I think the limits into which Tom and some of the other Vanderpump people have gone is night and day to anyone who's ever been
crazy.
on The Bachelor or Love is Blind or anything like that.
Speaking of Love is Blind, I feel like they really did Chelsea wrong. They left out a lot of context in that Megan Fox comment.
Tell me more.
Maybe that Jimmy told her that he looks like Christian McCaffrey, which definitely does not. at fucking all.
Well, actually, I would argue that Jimmy looks more like Christian McCaffrey than Chelsea looks like Megan Fox.
I think she looks like Megan Fox. I stand by that. It's the cheekbones up. Like, I see it.
Interesting. She also said Katy Perry and Adele, which, as Allie pointed out earlier,
I just feel like they look Katy Perry and Adele look nothing alike. That would be like me being like, oh, list of like celebrity lookalikes. Judi Dench, Barney, Selena Gomez. Like
like you're just naming celebrities at this point,
Yeah.
Chelsea. Like, have you ever been told these people look like you? If I'm Christian, I'm upset.
Why? Why would any celebrity be upset that less attractive people are often compared to them? I mean, as a celebrity, that's
I feel like a very underrated insult.
sure,
For
but
someone
that's-
to be like, oh my gosh, no, my cousin looks just like you. It's so crazy. Look at my cousin. And they show you this like ugly fucking person.
listen,
and you're
I
like,
feel that. I feel
this
that.
person looks
Mhm.
like me?
I get it. You
Been
know,
there.
if I had a nickel for every DM I've gotten where someone's been like, my boyfriend looks just like you, or my friend looks just like you, and it's just a white guy with curly hair and facial hair. And yeah, there have been moments where I've been deeply offended. But that's like comes with the territory of being a public figure, because we've, you know, in Chelsea and Jimmy's defense, everyone has been compared to a celebrity. You know, someone, it's like it's a thing people do when you're either on a date or even among friends. And yes, there are liberties taken where it's just like, you know, it's a way to compliment people. Maybe there's a feature, you know, like I don't doubt that someone actually told Chelsea this. You know what I'm saying?
No,
For
I don't
sure,
either, yeah.
she's had
Yeah.
people say this to her.
Yeah.
You know, like I said on Reality Recap, like I've been compared to celebrities, but it's another thing on Love is Blind.
But also, yeah, on Love is Blind, but also to say to a man, the like hottest, what like Transformers, like that was probably his like childhood crush.
Yes.
Every
Like
boy's
Megan Fo-
childhood crush.
Like he had like naked photos of her in his room, you know.
Sex icon.
Sex icon.
Yes.
Icon.
I also just the way she delivered it too. Where she's like, I get this one, but I don't really see it. But it's just because I have dark hair, and
MGK's
blue eyes,
girlfriend or
and it's
wife?
what MGK's girlfriend
Uh,
or wife.
you
like
know
it's a
damn
game of
well.
Jeopardy. He's like, who is Megan Fox?
I would have liked to seen, you know, if the Christian McCaffrey thing is true, like how it came up matters. Now,
Well-
did she bring it up, and then she could have been like, "Have you been told that you look like anyone?" And he's
Yeah.
like, "Well, I've been told I look like Christian McCaffrey." Or did Jimmy bring up Christian McCaffrey in an effort to like? Because I do think more men on the show are far more guilty of fishing and trying to be clever to talk about looks when they're not even supposed to.
And I think Chelsea's pretty. You just can't say who
Yeah.
you look like on a show where
It's
you're
like
not
when
supposed to say it
if
at
I go
all.
out and be like, if people think I look like Ryan Reynolds, who again, by many women's standards, is one of the hottest, he's literally been voted sexiest man in the world,
Alive.
alive,
Yeah.
or whatever. And so if I'm going to put myself up against Ryan Reynolds, I've lost.
The big reveal's not going to be a good one.
She doesn't deserve any hate. I mean, she deserves a little like, she deserves to be teased a little bit. She deserves to be given a hard time, but like everyone just needs to calm down for sure.
I think Megan Fox needs to come out.
I know.
And
Where's
say-
Megan Fox?
Babe, we're twins. Like she needs to
That would-
save her from
That's what
this.
Chelsea
She needs Megan
Do you
Fox.
think
needs to
Megan
say
Fox would
something.
do something like that?
Do you think Megan Fox has heard about this?
Yes.
She definitely
Yes,
has.
Yes.
she's definitely heard about this.
Yeah.
I don't know if she would. I don't know if she would, but she should. If you're listening, Meg,
We know you are.
take a little advice, babe.
I mean, on the topics of look, a lot of people think that Jimmy has been baiting this conversation of looks, because one of the things that happened was Jess was saying like you're gonna be choking when you see what I actually looked like.
Mhm.
He chooses Chelsea. So when Chelsea and him sit down at the resort, he's like, so like Jess brought up this conversation of looks, and he was kind of baiting Chelsea to react,
Yes.
trying to see like
Oh.
was she actually hot? Like what did Jess actually look like? So like he's been this whole like pusher of like the looks conversation.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Okay, so if you're saying that with the context that Chelsea provided, him bringing up Christian McCaffrey, and then kind of fishing for information on Jess.
Like, I guess if he was like, yeah, Jess said like you're gonna choke, like I'm like because of the way she looks, and Chelsea was like, yeah, you are, like she's fucking hot. He
What-
would have like, what would he have done?
What did he say? What did she say?
She just
She
Chelsea said, "Well,
didn't
you're gonna."
say anything.
Well, she was like, "Well, you're
She's-
gonna see her."
Yeah,
Yeah.
she didn't really entertain the conversation. She kind of shut it down. She
Which
was
good
just
for
like,
her.
you're gonna see her for yourself. I'm not saying anything.
yeah.
I don't think Chelsea would ever say anything because she was in competition with this girl to the point where, in my opinion, she had to compare herself to Megan Fox, and so I don't know.
Oh, you think she compared herself to Megan Fox to like get ahead? of
Well, I
Jess.
was saying
That's what
on
Nick was
Reality
saying, yeah.
Recap that I think Chelsea got caught up in the competition of Jess, where her ego was like, you have a chance to beat this chick, And so
give
in the
him a little.
pods, her judgment was clouded, knowing that for the first time in her life, she was going to be chosen over someone like Jess.
So she gave him the bait.
Yeah.
A lot of people are also saying that that's why she chose Jimmy over Trevor, because people are saying she had a much better connection with Trevor, but she went with Jimmy because
She
she was
wanted to win.
competing
Yeah.
with
Once
someone
you're part
like
of a
Jess.
competition and you have a chance to be chosen
Yeah,
over someone else that all these people are living in these pods and you get to know, and it's just like, I want to be picked over you. I mean, it's obvious that like nothing happens between Jess and Jimmy that the preview of last week suggested. Clearly, that was Chelsea just kind of going completely nuts, and the accusations of like he had sex with her completely out of left field and totally based off of Chelsea's own insecurities. I was not shocked to find out that nothing actually happened between Jess and Jimmy once they met. Again, I do feel like Jess kind of owes Jimmy a thank you, at least, maybe not an apology, because if the roles were reversed, had Jimmy picked Jess, she would have to figure out how to swerve out of that relationship, because there is zero chance she would have said yes at the altar to Jimmy, solely based off the fact that he doesn't look like Christian McCaffrey. Because it's obvious that these women thought he was some hot jock. Like they had a Christian McCaffrey type of person.
He thinks he's a hot jock. He was
Yeah.
the one on the beach with Chelsea being like, oh, I'm so muscular, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, yeah, everyone's going to want to steal my man.
Well,
she was feeding
confidence
into it.
sells, But-
Yikes.
Yikes.
But I do think that was a very interesting moment, and
I am glad that she cleared it up. Chelsea, we're on your side. It's a little silly. It's just silly.
Yeah, stop.
No one.
It's not that serious, guys. No one has to like defend Megan Fox. I'm sure she regrets. I know she's been all over my comments on Instagram. I know she regrets it. It's all in good fun. You gotta take care of the things that you love. We talk about that all the time when it comes to your relationship. Well, your investment in leather is no different. Now, it doesn't matter. I know you ladies have your leather boots and your leather purses or your leather chairs. I got my favorite chair in the house. It's this beautiful green leather chair. Natalie, she's a bit of a purse hound. She loves her bags, which are all high quality leather. Well, you got to take care of your stuff. And we take care of our stuff at our household, in this household, with Leather Honey. If you haven't heard of Leather Honey and you like anything leather, well, you are missing out. Leather Honey was invented in the 1960s and has been a family-owned and operated business ever since. Their American-made products are the premier non-toxic solution for all your leather care needs, making Leather Honey the #1 best-selling leather care products on Amazon. Leather Honey understands the value of your quality leather and how important it is to keep it looking like new. So yeah, I mean, listen, whether it's if you're going to invest some real money in like a nice bag or purse or a pair of shoes, you pay a lot of money for those things because they can last long, but they only last long if you take good care of them. And you can do that with the help of the great people at Leather Honey.
And if you're wondering, can I use Leather Honey on my car? Yes, you can. I drive a 14-year-old car and my leather seats have never looked better. They do not show their age thanks to Leather Honey.
So whether it's bags, boots, purses, shoes, chairs, sofas, it doesn't matter. Invest in Leather Honey and let your favorite leather pieces stand the test of time. See all the ways Leather Honey products can help prolong the life of your leather. Go to leatherhoney.com/VIALL20 to save 20% off on Leather Honey's complete leather care kit. That's leatherhoney.com/VIALL20. leatherhoney.com/VIALL20. Listen, we all want to have good skin, all of us. A good complexion goes a long way in life, but sometimes, your body doesn't always agree with you. Our bodies changes, weather affects our complexion, diets affect our complexion. And when it comes to finding a good dermatologist, well, sometimes you can be waiting in line and booking appointments with the dermatologist is hard to find. It can be expensive. Let the good people at Apostrophe put you in touch with a dermatology team that can get you the results that you are looking for. Apostrophe is an online platform that connects you with an expert dermatology team to get customized acne treatment for your unique skin. Through Apostrophe, you can get access to oral and topical medications that use clinically proven ingredients to help clear acne. Simply fill out an online consultation about your skin goals and medical history, then snap a few selfies and a dermatology provider will create a customized treatment plan just for you. Apostrophe offers access to prescription treatments of all types of acne, from hormonal acne to facial acne, even back, chest, and butt acne. Treat breakouts from head to toe.
Apostrophe made it so easy. I was with a friend. She was able to take photos of some breakouts on my face, some on my shoulders. You're able to input that into Apostrophe. Then Apostrophe connects you with an expert dermatology team who can kind of talk to you about what they're seeing from those photos, give you a care plan that's specific for you. I was able to look over exactly what she was seeing, what she was recommending, put it all in my cart, and then it ships directly to your house. So then whether it's, I'm on an oral supplement right now and a topical cream, and she also recommended sunscreen because she sees rosacea in my face and I can get a lot of issues with sun and inflammation. All of it just showed up to my door.
We have a special offer for our audience. Get your first visit for only $5 at apostrophe.com/VIALL when you use our code VIALL. That's a saving of $15. This code is only available to our listeners to get started. Just go to apostrophe.com/VIALL. That's APOSTROPHE.com/VIALL and click Get Started. Then use our code VIALL at sign up and you'll get your first visit for only $5. Thank you, Apostrophe, for sponsoring this episode. Anyways, the new batch obviously came out yesterday. I know we talked a little bit about Jess and Jimmy. Nothing happened, but we'll get into the nitty gritty on Tuesday of Reality Recap. But maybe it's time for a birth story. Yeah.
Let's do it.
I'm excited.
How do you want to start it off, babe?
I don't know. We were talking about this with my mom, and she was like, "I think you should start with the choice to conceive." And I was like,
Okay.
So you want us to talk about us fucking? Nick last night looks at River and he goes, "It's crazy that we made you because one night we decided to have sex."
It is kind of wild when you think of it that way. Natalie's mom was visiting the night she was conceived. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I do remember the night. Like,
I do too.
Does she know this?
I think so.
I think
Yeah.
I might have mentioned in passing quickly.
Are you a little uncomfy, Allie?
No, it's just
You're, like, rubbing your neck.
It's bringing me back to the episode where we had Natalie on and we were talking about the pregnancy. And he's literally, it was a similar, I have a clip of it on my desktop. And we were like, oh, like, where should we start? Maybe with like hopes and dreams for the baby. And Nick goes, are we not going to talk about conceiving? Like, he has been so
He
eager to
wants
talk
to
about
talk
y'all boning
about
for
it.
months.
Well, let's talk about it, baby.
Oh, it was good. Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
We made a baby.
Yeah. But I do want to say before we start, a little disclaimer. This is our birth story.
Yeah.
We're here to share our story. We're not here to yuck anyone's yum. We're not here to give medical advice. We're here to just share our story, our experiences. If you find any of it useful, we appreciate that. If you find none of it useful, totally fine. We're not looking for medical feedback. We took the advice of our doctors, but we are sharing our experience. And like I said, we're not giving medical advice at all. But if our experience in any way helps anyone else out there who is currently pregnant or expecting, or maybe wants to have a baby someday, or if you just want to listen, laugh, and cry, that's also great too.
Period.
Slay.
I think what we can say about conceiving our child is that she was not an accident. She was not an oops. She was, once we got engaged, it was like, you know what? We're engaged. Let's just like play ball. Let's see what happens, you know? And that is how Miss River came to be.
There was a little bit of like, I'm older.
I was like, can he have kids?
It was like, I mean, I'm pretty sure I can. Nothing. I haven't received any information to suggest that I haven't. But at the flip side, I haven't received any information to suggest that I could. And you hear a lot of stories about people struggling But we were one of the blessed couples that we didn't have any issues in that department, but knowing that some people do.
My entire pregnancy, obviously we've talked about it a lot on this show. I had a terrible first trimester, was extremely sick, nonstop puking, very nauseous, food tasted moldy, chemically. I would like go to restaurants and be like, there's bleach in this. I really struggled.
That actually happened once. She actually told the waiter.
They were like, no, ma'am,
there
please.
might be, there's chemicals or bleach in her food. And I was like, I'm sorry. I'm pretty sure you guys
it's
don't
that
do
strong, like you tasted it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
She just was very sensitive to food, became not fun for Natalie.
Not fun. So my entire first trimester, I was like, Nick, I will never, ever do this again. Like, this will be your one child unless we go surrogacy, because I will never go through this. It was that bad. Second trimester, blissful, beautiful. I loved it. It was amazing. Third trimester, very just large and uncomfortable. And I started getting a lot of fluid. So my fluid was pretty high. And that was kind of something that they kept watching as I got further along. And then she was breech. So she was head up at like 36, 37 weeks. And so they scheduled me to manually get turned. So for a breech version is what they call it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to see my doctor that morning. I'll get an ultrasound. And then at noon, I'll go get this breech version in the hospital.
And for those of you who don't know what happens, what do they do for a breech version?
They they push on your stomach and manually try to turn the baby.
And it's
apparently very uncomfortable. I did not have to do it because that morning we go in to see my doctor and Miss River is head down. So she had heard the torture that she would be put through. And she was like, you know what? I'll just do it on my own. I'll just go head down. It's fine. Don't worry about it. But I had so much fluid and she turned so late that I think it was definitely scary for us to be like, let's just, wait for 40 weeks because she could turn back. And then it's harder to do this breech version when the baby's bigger.
A big concern for you was you wanted to do everything you could to prevent you from having to have a C-section. If that was controllable, you wanted to try to control that, right?
Correct. Yeah. So if she did turn back breech and they couldn't turn her, I would have to have a C-section. And I did not want to do that. But so with the help of Nick and myself and my doctor, we all decided that an induction was the best route. And so I got induced at 38 weeks and 5 days. And more so, it was 38 and 5 because she was like, well, what date do you want? And I was like, I want her birthday to be 2/4/24. 24/24. How iconic is that? And she was like, well, that's on a Sunday. So we actually can't schedule a Sunday induction. We went in Thursday before on the 1st.
Yeah. And we were informed that an induction typically, give or take, takes around 24 hours from the time that you arrive at the hospital to when the baby is born. That was the estimate that they gave us, kind of just setting expectations of what we could expect.
Yeah. So Thursday night, we have Nick cooks an amazing meal. We have steak and potatoes and vegetables, and him and my mom finish a bottle of wine.
But yeah, so it was I don't normally drink. And what happened is we have our wine rack, which is usually full and really just more of an aesthetic for the house. It's like an art piece. And which is why when I normally buy wine, I buy for the labels. And, as often happens, we receive, gifts, or when people came to the house and bring a bottle of wine or whatever, I'm always like, thank you, put it on the rack, don't pay much attention to it, crack open the bottle of wine, drink it, whatever. Natalie's mom, not like myself, likes a thing that she likes to do is to Google the wine that she's about to drink, do a little research.
Find out what the aromas are.
The vintage, the year. Turns out the bottle that I grabbed that was sitting there that, quite frankly, I wasn't a fan of the label, so I didn't drink it all that much. Turns out it was like a $200 bottle of wine. And we're like, oh shit, this is like a fancy bottle of wine. Do we remember what it was?
Brilliant Mistakes.
Brilliant Mistake. Yeah.
Which, great bottle of wine to drink on the night we go and to get induced.
So we're like, well, I normally, when I crack open a bottle of wine, we'll have a half a glass, and we waste more alcohol typically than we drink.
But not a $200.
But my mom was like, we gotta
drink this. So quite honestly, I wasn't remotely drunk, but I had a little tipsy before we left, but we were celebrating. expecting birth of our child.
So we get to the hospital. My induction time was 10 p.m. on Thursday, the 1st. And we get to the hospital, we check in, we get put into our room. I'm told to put on the gown and they hook me up to everything. And then the question of like epidural, not epidural, like what are you thinking? And listen, I believe in modern medicine. I trust what my doctor says. So I was like, fuck yeah, give me that epidural. So I was like, well, how do I know when to ask for this epidural? Like, I don't, like, do I need it now? I don't feel anything right now, but how soon does it happen? And the girl was like, well, the nurse was like, as soon as you start feeling something, maybe ask for it because it'll take a minute to get to
the way
you.
she described it was like, when you start experiencing pain that you no longer want to feel, ask for it right away because it takes some time to set in and administer and things like that, which was still in itself kind of a vague like description for when we should ask for it. And we didn't receive any other information in terms of how it was administered, how long it lasts, et cetera, et cetera.
I had a friend of mine who had given birth a couple weeks prior, and I was like, any advice? And she was like, ask for the epidural ASAP. And so I'm like, fuck, okay. So as soon I was like, let me just feel, I'll trust what this nurse says. As soon as I start feeling pain, I don't want to feel anymore. So of course, my contractions are 0 to 100. So this is Thursday. On the Tuesday before, we went to go to my doctor. She checked my cervix. And apparently, I've never had this, but that's where they put an IUD, is in your cervix. And her checking my cervix was the most painful thing I have ever felt in my life. And my friend Chambliss was like, that's where they put an IUD. Like, that's what I feel every time I get my IUD changed. And I was like, you need to be put under anesthesia for that. Like, that was so painful. So honestly, having that done on Tuesday and feeling that amount of pain terrified me for Thursday because I was like, if this is just you checking my cervix and that's so painful, like, what is Thursday going to be like? So my doctor explained to me that an induction, the way that she was going to do it was insert a Foley balloon catheter. So it's like a long, like rubbery straw that has a balloon on it. They stick it inside of your cervix and they blow up the balloon and it's supposed to dilate your cervix to like 3-4 centimeters.
Yeah, it's like a jumpstart the dilating process.
Yeah, so it like tells your body like we're ready to go. As she's putting in this Foley balloon, my water breaks.
Whoa.
Yeah, which we felt like it was a good sign, like that was like nature way of saying, you know what?
We're ready.
We're ready.
The midwife who was putting in the balloon was like, in my 10 years, this has never happened. Like, I've never seen someone's water break as I'm putting in this.
And we're like, never happened good or never happened bad?
Yeah, like oh, should we
like,
be
okay.
worried? She's like, no, this is great. Your body's like ready to go. So that was extremely painful to have this Foley balloon put inside me. But once it's inside, everything's good. Now, what I learned is that when your water breaks, it's no longer sterile. So like that is what's keeping everything in your body sterile. And once that water breaks, and every time they check your cervix to see how dilated you are at a risk for infection.
Whoa.
Because they are like putting in bacteria, like things, they're introducing new things into your cervix.
We didn't really know at the time. That's not like they didn't really explain that in that moment, but they did start checking her temperature like every hour on the hour, and they were very reluctant. They did not want to keep checking her cervix. They wanted to wait, which
they only check it every 4 to 6 hours.
Yeah.
I was 1 centimeter on Tuesday when my doctor checked in her office, and my cervix was soft. So she's like, these are all great signs. Then when we get to the hospital, I'm still 1 centimeter. They put the Foley balloon in. They take it out 4 or 5 hours later, and I'm at 4 centimeters. So it had done exactly what they said it would do.
So while the balloon, it was in there, that's when you started experiencing some pretty uncomfortable feelings.
Well, contractions, yeah. Which part of me like wanted to feel the contractions just to know what it was. I had felt Braxton Hicks contractions like kind of the 2 weeks before, but these are very intense. And
for those of people who don't know what Braxton Hicks contractions are,
it's like fake contractions. Like you're not actually giving a baby. It's just your body's like practicing.
It's like giving your body a heads up of what childbirth might be like.
Yeah. So I'm like, I need the epidural immediately. I stand up. Nick starts like swaying my hips. They put a heat pack on my back. We're trying to like alleviate this. Of course, as soon as I ask for the epidural, the anesthesiologist has like,
It's backed up.
yeah, like three other moms have
Three other moms.
just asked.
That's what always
for an
happens.
epidural.
Yeah.
What time is it right now?
Middle
1 in the
of
morning.
You said
Yeah.
4
2 in the morning.
hours from
Yeah,
10
2 in the
p.m.
morning. So I want to talk epidural for a second. And again, we're not here to yuck anyone's yum. We're not giving medical advice. But this experience for the epidural, like what we experienced versus like what we thought an epidural was. Like I was surprised just how little information they talk to you about the epidural process. Even like I kind of expected like that would be something our doctor would have. I mean, other than our doctor being like, "Hey, do you plan on using epidural or not?" Natalie being like, "Fuck yeah," and then it was like, "Cool," you know. And our doctor also mentioned that just on her end, she feels like has more control during childbirth with someone who is on an epidural.
Well, I had a big fear of tearing.
Yeah.
And my doctor was like, well, when you're on an epidural, it's a lot more controlled. And so it's not like this like kind of insane she can control it, I guess, better.
Yeah, that's how no one really talked to Natalie or us about like what it's like to get an epidural, the process. Like keep in mind, the only thing we've ever heard, you know, you always hear like these horror stories and it's always like the same thing. It's just like they pull out this giant fucking needle. Like it's just like a sword that's going to go into your back. That's all I've ever heard about an epidural is a giant fucking needle and how painful it is. Like something to truly be afraid of. You know, if you have a fear of needles, obviously, which a lot of people do. It was just like something that Natalie, even in myself, for Natalie's sake, was like, okay, well, you know, get the epidural, but like, fuck, man, this is going to be something. It was nothing like that. Not to mention, part of the reason why Natalie was like, well, do I ask for it now? Do I ask for it later? We're thinking, well, they just told us this thing's might be 24 hours. And like, while Natalie was a little uncomfortable in that moment, like, she was just like, well, I just want to make sure that this epidural is like popping when I'm giving childbirth. But like no one talked to us about like anything about the process. So once Natalie asked for it, this very lovely anesthesiologist comes in and, you know, talks us through it. He asks if I'm afraid of needles. He mentions that a lot of fathers have passed out. I'm like, no, I'm good. But I mean, describe it. I don't want to describe it for you.
I mean, putting the IV into my arm was more painful than this needle going into my spinal cord.
Yeah. So like Natalie sits up on the hospital bed. The anesthesiologist is behind her. So Natalie doesn't even see this needle. And the needle, honestly, like, I mean, it was bigger than like a shot that, say, a diabetic might give themselves or, you know, a vaccine. Again, in my mind, I had this vision of this like fucking giant fucking needle. And maybe that's what it was like back in the day. I don't know. And so it's not that big of a needle. They numbed her back, which, again, Natalie said was more painful than the actual application of the epidural itself. But it's almost like tapping into the matrix. They put in the needle and it just stays in there. And then it's hooked up to this machine that has like a remote control on it. And they're like, hey, listen, they tell Natalie this. You can hit it as much as you can. You can't OD. Like the machine is set up that, you know, it's basically designed so that like the person who's receiving the epidural, whenever they're receiving pain, they can hit as much as they want so that it's giving the maximum benefit that's, you know, safe.
Wow.
But the machine won't let them OD.
So you're administering your own epidural.
Yeah, she's administering her own epidural as long as it's not, you know, going above any type of maximum, which is considering all the variables that one might need to consider.
It's also not like the needle that's in your back that stays in your back is like malleable. You don't have the hard needle like sticking in your back the whole time.
Yeah, you didn't even feel it.
No, you don't feel it. And
you're
then
able to lay back down?
You're able to lay back down. And then, yeah, as soon as you start feeling anything, like I would maybe start to feel like a little bit more in my legs than maybe I did 10 minutes earlier. And I'd press it again because I'd be like, oh, I don't want to feel anything.
But I was so like, I mean, maybe alarm is the wrong word, but like surprised just by how minimally invasive it, again, this was our experience. It was Natalie's experience. It was. And had we known what we know now, her friend who was like, as soon as you can ask for it, that's the recommendation we would give to anyone listening. If you plan on getting an epidural, just be like, as soon as I'm allowed to get it, just tap me into the matrix. Because if from there on, you can again administer. And then Natalie, Natalie was pretty conservative with it. At first, she really wasn't hitting it that much. She wasn't, that was just a choice that Natalie made. But like, she had total control. She never got to the point where it was like, oh fuck, it's worn off or anything like that. It was like she was like locked in, ready to go the rest of the way. And it was such a like pretty chill experience. And the fear that Natalie, even I felt like leading up to being induced over simply just because no one explained it to us. I was just shocked that no one's like, hey, I don't know what you know about epidurals, but it's a lot different these days. I'm assuming it's different, because again, maybe that's how it was like in the 80s. They pull out this big fucking sword and like jam it in someone's back.
You've also just heard horror stories of like, oh, like my right leg, I felt stuff in like the right side of my body and like the epidural, wore off or and I honestly was so scared of the epidural, I think, because it sounds so scary and I don't have a high pain tolerance. I have a couple tattoos, but like it's definitely different, I think. And when I tell you them putting the IV into my wrist hurt more than this epidural, I mean that. Like it was nothing.
And do you have like baby veins or do you have like the normal ones?
I don't have good veins at all. They
Okay.
they definitely had to search for a minute. And putting the IV on your wrist hurts a lot more than like in your elbow.
Yeah.
So just saying.
So now she's tapped into the matrix.
I'm tapped into the matrix.
And that took about 20 minutes, I'd say, for you to like feel better.
So we are in the middle of the night, Thursday night, and they come in to check me again. Still at 4 centimeters. They're like, it's okay. It's normal. Like your body's just.
And how many centimeters do you need to get to?
10.
10. Okay.
So the balloon gets you to 4 pretty quick.
Mm.
Then you kind of get all excited. And then she's stuck at 4.
And you're not considered in active labor until 6 centimeters.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're really just like chilling. I'm kind of sleeping. Nick's trying to sleep. And then they come. I mean, there's no sleeping in the hospital. They come and bother you every, 30 minutes. But they checked me probably 3 times throughout every 6 hours, 4 to 6 hours. And every time they checked me, I was at 4 centimeters. And it was this very like draining feeling because you're so exhausted. You feel like you've been there for so long. And you feel like from 4 to 10, you've got a long fucking way to go. And so they'd come in and they'd be like, they'd check you and they'd be like, okay, well, we are still at 4. So we are just gonna, we won't check you for another 6 hours. And you're just like, oh my God. So they say, as soon as you start to feel, unless you start to feel rectal pressure, like you are going to shit yourself, let us know. But other than that, we won't check you. So we get to Friday morning. Nick's like, I'm going to go pick up your mom, pick you up some breakfast. They did.
Like assured me that she wasn't going to be going into labor for the next 2 hours.
Yeah.
And they let you eat whatever you want while you're
there? No, the sweet nurse, who I will not say her name, they don't want you to eat because obviously of the like, oh, if we need to give you a C-section, you can't have anything in your stomach. But she was like, if you want to have a couple bites of something, I did not say anything and I am not here. So I honestly wasn't even like hungry at that point. I just wanted to have my baby.
And it's more like a lawsuit thing, because like on the very outside chance she had, if she had to have a C-section, again, not a medical professional, but something to do with
higher risk of
complication. But as this nurse described, she's like, people get put under all the time that get flown in, flight for life in a car accident, and they just like,
lunch.
Leaving a heavy steak dinner.
Right.
And so the
They've done it
chances are
before.
so low, but the hospital is saying, well, we're not going to give you food because if something were to happen, the patient could say, well, you fed me.
They're liable.
And they're liable, So she was like, I'm not here, but like, you're probably good. So us being snobby eaters, I went out and got food for every meal. Like we didn't eat hospital food. I left.
So you weren't allowed to eat from like when they induced you until
Technically,
after
Once you get to the
birth?
hospital,
Yeah.
they
Wow.
say they're
That's
not.
a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. 24 hours.
And you're
You can have like I
Jell-O.
ate a lot of Jell-O and Italian ice.
Which they have really good Italian ice.
That's the crunchy ice, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah,
prepping
nice.
for a colonoscopy.
Yeah. And so Nick left. He went and got my mom. And, I, again, am just like sleeping. And then they both come back. It's like 8 in the morning on Friday, still at 4 centimeters. I mean, we go the whole day of them just checking me. I'm at to the point where I'm like, Mom, Nick, like, please go for a walk. Please get out of this room. Like, we've just been sitting here staring at each other. Like, you've got to get out of here. And then they're checking my temperature. And I have a 103.2 temperature. I have gotten an infection.
Oh, no.
From them checking my cervix. So everything that they said they were worried about happened.
But they did also say this is still kind of normal. Like, it's not, they kind of expected this with her water breaking. They were very good to like make sure we didn't panic even when things like a fever, happened. So I don't know about you, but I still felt like we were in good hands.
Yeah, I was never worried the whole time.
Were you feeling sick? Like, did you feel like you had a
I definitely had a headache.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like, but so they are pumping me now with, I had the Pitocin for the induction and the contractions, antibiotics and the epidural, and then just like a normal saline drip. And they're worried, obviously, that River will get this infection.
They were monitoring River's vitals as well. So like they always knew like how her heartbeat was. I will say like as soon as we got to the hospital and like I'm being teared up now, but like when now they got in there and they like I don't know, they did whatever they did to hook you up to all the vitals.
Put like the bands around your stomach.
And then you could hear River's heartbeat. Like I just started sobbing,
Aww.
Because it just felt like she was that much closer to us, so that was pretty intense. At what point was it before we found out you had an infection? I feel like it was before because they did an ultrasound and she wasn't breached. She was still head down, but she was flipped the wrong way. So she was head up instead of head down, and head down apparently is preferred.
She was head down, but face up.
That's what I mean.
So she has to come out with her head down.
Oh.
And
she was twisted.
Yeah, so she was looking at the inside of my stomach instead of like down at the ground.
Got it.
And that's how they want her to come out. So we had to do what they call swinging baby positions. It was
like a trend on TikTok.
First of all, we gave birth at Cedars-Sinai, and like this, I don't know if anyone's considering about giving birth in LA,
was born
but
there.
like Cedars, the way that they do things was so amazing. I didn't even have to have a birth plan because they just like checked every box. But yeah, so they were like, this is a trend on TikTok. I don't know if you've seen it. Shout out to this nurse. Her name was Emily, and she was amazing. And she was with me the whole night. It's really, I will say, it's really sad. Like I get they got to go home, right? But like when you get a new nurse in the morning and you've just been with someone all night, it's like the saddest thing because
you build a rapport.
Yeah. Me and this nurse, Emily, we had built this rapport. She was with me all day. And then at 7 p.m., she went home and this new nurse came in and she was like, well, like, she told the new nurse that came in, she's like, text me and let me know what happens. And I was like, please keep her in the loop. Like she had just been with me for so long. And she's the one who put me in these swinging baby positions. And basically it was like, I had this big peanut ball between my knees and I was laying in the bed and I'd like have one leg back here, one leg up here. They were doing everything they could to open up my pelvis and get her to turn face down. My mom is in the room, and so I don't need to be like all exposed, I'm also like I wanted a little bit of privacy. Yeah. So I brought my own blanket. I like really just wanted them to always like cover me when I was moving or whatever. And I will say I'd been with Emily, the nurse, all day, and the new nurse comes in and she just like takes off my sheet and I'm like, no. And Emily was like, she would like to stay covered. The new nurse was like, okay. So it was a little
different personalities with different nurses, but there was always a nurse and a midwife on staff.
Yeah, that came to check on you.
Yeah.
So they put me in these swinging baby positions, and I'm in those for
what felt like all day.
Truly, felt like all day. I have this infection. They're constantly checking me. And then they put in this thing inside my cervix that lays beside River to really check my contractions because they couldn't get a very good read on what the band around my stomach. So a lot of crazy random things that they had to do to me. But They come to check me at like 8:30. And the midwife comes in, and we've heard 900 times that I'm at 4 centimeters. So we were very, over it at this point. And she checks me.
You went from 4 to 5.5. So you went from 4 to 5.5, and there was like a high five moment because like there was progress. So again, like for 12 hours, 4 centimeters, 4 centimeters, 4 centimeters. And again, our doctor was like, hey, give or take, it could be 24 hours, but sometimes it could be longer. And, we went from getting to the hospital and her water immediately breaking to be like, oh shit, maybe it's going to be like an 8-hour thing. Hell yeah, And then all of a sudden, 12 hours later, after 4 centimeters, we're coming up on like hour 16, hour 17. And it's like, oh, fuck, she's still at 4 centimeters. And, fatigue started to set in. It was like, oh shit, how long is this going to happen? It's just the marathon that it is. It gets to be a bit much. So she's 5.5 now. We're pretty excited about that. But we're just like, we don't want to keep checking. So at that point, it's very much like a guessing game. So like around 8:45, 9, River's heartbeat started fluctuating a little bit. There were moments where it would slow down. And then when it slows down, they get a little nervous about just River's positioning. There were a couple times where like they were doing these swinging baby exercises in different positions. River would respond to it. So like, I think when you were like on your left side, her heart rate would slow down. So they would switch you to the right side. And then the midwife came back in. She had checked her, not too long ago. It's 5.5, but like River's heart rate was fluctuating. And you could tell, again, she was like, I don't know if I want to check you again. I just checked you an hour earlier. And then she's like, you know what? Fuck it. Like, I want to check you because I'm just a little nervous about River's heart rate. And then, sorry. And then, yeah, they.
Go ahead.
It's funny. Not funny, but like, it just hits you. Yeah, they checked her and they look at Natalie and they're like, they're like, you're ready to have a baby. And like Nan and I just look at each other and start bawling because it just hits you. You're like, holy shit, it's happening.
Yeah, I was like, I'm at 10 centimeters. And she was like, you're at 10 centimeters. And we all, like me, Nick, my mom, we all just started sobbing. It had been so like emotional. It had been such a long day. And like to finally hear that she was ready it was a lot. It was a lot.
Yeah. So like I'm pacing, going back and forth. And like, Natalie wants to film some of it, but it's just like her mom was, God bless her, like did a great job. Her mom's not a social media influencer, but she was there with her camera. We had another camera set up. I was like, I don't want to block it. And then they were like, all right, let's do what they were called practice pushes, which I don't know, for me, it seemed like just regular pushes.
It was with the midwife at first and
and the nurse.
The first, maybe you do like rounds of 3 and each of them are 10 seconds long. Before I started pushing, I remember they told me like if you start to get rectal pressure, that means like obviously her head is just like pushing further and further down. That's a good sign. Your body's getting more and more ready. And I was like, is this going to be, because I felt them with my contractions and they're like, no, you will feel it like nonstop. And sure enough, felt them nonstop. And I was like, holy shit, this is literally very, very painful. And the epidural was not covering it. So they called the anesthesiologist back in and they didn't have to repoke me or anything. They just insert more epidural, I guess a higher dosage into my back. And then that was knocked out. But I did feel the rectal pressure that they were talking about. And that is no fucking joke. And by that like second round of pushing, the midwife was like, oh, I see hair. So I was like, how close are we to having a baby? Like how do you already see hair? Also, that explains all the heartburn. Like it all makes sense now. And so I did a couple with the midwife. The midwife left. I did some more practice pushes, which were obviously real pushes with the nurse. And that got me to River crowning. So her head was there.
Well, and at this point, I will say, like, I felt in good hands. Like, I felt like we were in good hands with the nurse and the midwife. Not yet.
Okay.
And it's definitely touch and go. And in defense to Cedars and our doctor, again, she went from 5.5 to 10 like this. And they were like, they didn't want to check her that quickly, again, because of risk of infection. So it's like, it's very much like a guessing game to,
When does
knowing
a
when-
doctor usually come? Like at how many centimeters?
I think if they would have checked her, I'm guessing, I don't know for sure, like if at like 8 or,
Well,
you know.
6 is active labor.
Yeah.
So I hadn't even reached that yet. And so we had seen my doctor. She was
Popped in a few
delivering other
times.
babies. So she
Yeah.
had popped in a couple times. She was like, "You're doing
Okay.
great. Like, just, this is kind of the part of it. I'll see you later."
And I don't think she lives too far. But yes, Natalie was never in active labor until she started, to our knowledge, until she started pushing.
Wow.
So at that point, when, they're like, oh, by the way, you're at 10, that's when they called the doc.
Wow.
So we're doing these practice
wait.
pushes.
The nurse has her crowning. So her head is there. And they're like, "Okay, we're just waiting on your doctor." And I'm like,
before
"Where
that, at
is
some
she?"
point, I was like, I felt like we were in good hands. We had a midwife, we had a nurse. They clearly knew what they were doing. We're at a hospital. I feel good. But just all like principle alone, I was like, is the doctor going to show up? They're like, oh yeah, she's like on her way, And, but yeah, there was a moment where they like waited for the doctor, even though like River's head was crowned.
She sat crowning for like 3-5 minutes. And my doctor comes in, obviously like running. She's like, "Oh my," like she looks at her head and she's like, "Oh my God, I drove so fast. Like I tried to get here so fast, but like I pushed her to crowning in less than 30 minutes."
Wow.
Yeah.
So then my doctor scrubs in and I push 3 times with her and
Out she came.
out she came. She came out with the umbilical cord wrapped around her neck several times, which I did not see until my mom showed us the footage that my mom took, and they pulled her out, and you just see her kind of like unwrapping
Very
the umbilical
calmly,
cord.
like no
Yeah,
big
that's good.
deal. Thank God Natalie, prior to us going in to the hospital, showed me this TikTok trend of how some babies come out looking.
They're all
right
to
away.
that sound good, googly moogly. That
Yeah.
thing is juicy
Because it's a wild ride from the womb
to the world.
to the world.
And they're malleable too, right?
They're
Like, their skulls.
malleable. The heads are very soft. That's why some babies come out with kind of a cone head a little bit. But you can get like a hematoma or whatever, like bruises. I mean, our therapist Darlene kind of afterwards referenced like, yeah, she came out with a lot of like almost like scars or bruises. Again, like it's as if like shrapnel's kind of a normal thing that a baby. It's a very physical, intense process for the baby, it seems like. But River came out, she had a bit of a bump on her head, but like thank God Natalie prepped me for that because I knew what that was. Had I not, I would have been probably freaking out. I've been like, what the fuck's going on? But that went away. I mean, I didn't even notice going away. It was gone
in like
minutes, it seemed like.
Even with all the TikToks and the friends that you have who've given birth, was there anything that surprised you guys?
The epidural aspect was my biggest like, man, I wish we would have known. I wish someone would have walked us through what it was like to get an epidural because Natalie and I both spent a decent amount of time worrying about it, stressing about it, specifically Natalie, not sure what it was, when should she ask for it, and then Natalie's like, do I ask for it now? Should I ask for it later? Should we wait? And knowing what we know now, like it would have been nice being more informed about that process. I don't know about you.
I mean, mine is probably just like once I started the pushing process, like it was truly a breeze. Like I would deliver a baby 100 times over. It's really like the pregnancy, the 9 months, that was harder on me. But the delivery itself, I mean, I obviously think like we really had an amazing doctor. I was terrified to tear. I don't know why. That was like such a fear of mine, but I just had friends who had like 3rd-degree tears and they had to do physical therapy for like their just pelvic floor, like all of this stuff. And I was really scared of that. And I told my doctor I was scared of that. And she prioritized like massaging my perineum as the baby's coming out. So she was like helping me. I think really just having a doctor that cares about your body as much as they would care about their own is really important.
And our doctor made that clear that was a priority for her, which it's not always the case. The experience overall at Cedars was wonderful. To Natalie's point, every nurse is different. Every midwife is different. Some, there's more of a personal touch. Some, it's more like I'm a professional. And all of them felt like we were in good hands. But to some have that more personal touch than others. And so it's a different experience.
Yeah.
Cedars also has like their way of doing things. So they had a 60-second delayed cord clamping. So I didn't even have to ask for that. They were kind of like, do you want this or do you want us to immediately cut it? And then they have an hour of skin to skin as soon as the baby's born.
Oh, by the way, when the doc came, she was like, do you want to help deliver? And we had already talked about that. Like, Natalie wanted me by her side. I don't think Natalie really wanted me to have a front row seat anyways. And I was in agreement with that. And so I was like, no, I'm just going to stay by Natalie. But I really appreciated her asking me, you know, like she really, like our doctor asking me that question weirdly just made me feel once again like we were in good hands. It's like a pilot inviting you into the cockpit. It's like, all right, well, I guess like we're in, you know, we're safe because like if you can let me in here, then everything's under control.
Right.
You know?
You're letting me see behind the
Yeah.
scenes.
Like I felt it gave me an added sense of security, but I declined. I wanted to like see River the first time Natalie saw River.
He did cut the umbilical cord.
Oh, you did cut it.
He did cut the umbilical cord.
Nick,
Yeah.
what was it like seeing her for the first time?
It was crazy. I honestly was like, wow, she's really good looking. Because I was like, I didn't really know what to expect, but she came out skin to skin right away with Natalie. I kind of stuck my finger, and she grabbed it. And then after I cut the umbilical cord, they had to clean her up, and they had to get some fluids out of her, you know, chest and things like that. So they took her from Natalie for just a few minutes, and I was by Natalie's side, and then River started crying. I can't talk about it without sobbing.
I know.
And then I went over by River, and then I started like just kissing her, and she stopped crying.
Oh.
She recognized his voice. And
I
she
don't know,
stopped
but she stopped crying.
She did. My mom's like videotaping this, and they're like shaking her and sticking things down her nose, and she is like screaming, crying. And Nick comes over and he like puts his head on her head and he starts kissing her and he's talking to her, and she just stops and like turns her head towards him. And they say like, obviously we talked to her the entire pregnancy, and they say
We
like,
read to her like most nights.
babies know that voice, and she definitely recognized his voice.
There was a moment before that where they brought River up to Natalie, and for what felt like eternity, but in reality was maybe like 2 seconds, like River's quiet. Like I was like screams, cry, make a noise, because I quickly instinctually like realize she hasn't like made a noise yet, and that kind of gasp of air, or you know, that babies make, or fluids, was like that was like it was a split second, but it was a bit nerve-wracking. And then she like, you know, screamed, and I felt much safer.
I got so nervous, and then I was afraid that there would be like weird comments of why she wasn't screaming. So I took her screams from another video
Oh, when you
and
edited
put
that
it
video?
into that
Oh
one
my
because
goodness.
I was worried.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was scary.
Yeah, it was literally like a split second, but it's long enough to be like, hey, say something. A little nerve-wracking.
Natalie, did you feel like a feeling of relief after it was over and she was put into your arms?
I think what is it they say? The oxytocin that you release, like, it's so real. And my friend Paige, she's been on the show, friend of show, Paige Peck, she was like, this sounds so corny, but like the second that you see her, hold her, hear her, like that love, that bond, she was like, it's just something that you cannot describe. And like, you will be so in love with this baby. And it was so like the second she was laid on my chest, it was like, it's hard to explain because I obviously spent 9 months growing her, and then to have her in my arms was I can't even explain it. I don't even, but also you're on like I was on so many drugs that I didn't care about anything else. I mean, my doctor is, you know, finishing up down there, and I just have like no care in the world.
And from my perspective, it was like, not that I ever doubted it, but like it was really something to see Natalie be a mom. You know,
Yeah.
like it's ridiculous.
It's not. It's so sweet.
It's not
But like just
ridiculous.
seeing her like with River and being a mom was just like, it was awesome. Like it was really cool to see just, you know, how much she gravitated towards instinctually being a mom to River.
Yeah, they say is for anyone who's like scared or like, I don't know what I'm doing, the second that baby is laid on your chest, you instinctually just know. You just know like what they need, what like this means. She was crying, I think, and the nurse was like, "Oh, it's like I just knew why. Like I knew what she needed, and it was like I feel like instinctually it was just easy."
I
don't
gave our
know.
doctor a high five afterwards. Yeah, that's where she
We
was
did
born.
it.
She did have jaundice. She still might have a little bit of jaundice, but so we had to stay in the hospital
2 nights.
obviously 2 nights after, and she had to sleep in like an incubator with blue lights on her naked with like a eye mask on, which was extremely hard for me. But I mean, other than that, she passed all her tests. I think something that's really hard about all of it is I'm obviously healing from a wound in my uterus the size of a dinner plate. And they are taking, River gets her first bath and they have to take her to do all these tests. And I would love to join, but obviously, like, I sent Nick because you have to recover. You have to and I think the biggest thing that you need to recover is sleep and rest. And that's like the one thing you don't get. And so it was really hard for me to like miss that bath or miss like the hearing test or, all the other, I don't even know what other stuff she did because it was like I couldn't get up
Just a hearing test and a bath.
go down there.
But, Natalie had to miss those moments. But other than that, like, I remember my mom, I have a lot of siblings, so I was old enough to, remember my mom having many of my siblings. And there was always like the nursery where they would take the baby away from, my mom and my dad, and then they'd bring her in to feed or bring my siblings in to feed and things like that. River never left our side. She was in her own like little bassinet next to the hospital bed. And then I pulled the rocking chair next to the bed. For half the night, we slept in the hospital bed together. I thought it would be fun not crying. I felt like, oh, if I do this right away, if I wait a couple of weeks, but no.
Yeah.
Anyways, taking her home was really great. Did I change her first diaper at the hospital?
Maybe. I don't really remember. Like, I feel like that's the sad part about all of this is that I'm just in such like a haze after you give birth that I really don't remember a lot of like what happened.
I just remember it being very instinctual. I had not changed a diaper since I was maybe 9 years old. I had changed a couple of my siblings' diapers, and then I had enough of siblings around where I was like, I don't need to do this anymore. And I literally had never changed a diaper since until I changed my daughter's. But it definitely is like riding a bike. And I will, how people say like knowing like your own farts don't smell bad to you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's true. And then also your babies. Like they're just everything about her smells so good. Like smelling her is like a hit of like drugs. It gives you a high.
I keep saying this girl has never brushed her teeth. She spits up all the time, and yet her breath smells
stunning.
so good.
Like changing her diaper is one of my favorite things. It's like a little quality time with dad. Everything about taking care of her is like the greatest thing in the world. And yeah, Natalie's been breastfeeding and pumping, and typically I'll take the first shift. We'll go to bed around 9 or 10, and then she'll wake up around 1-ish, and then I'll heat up the bottles, and then I'll take the first shift, feed her, burp her, do her leg exercises, get her to fart or poop, and then change her, swaddle her, bring her back to bed, and then Natalie will usually take the second shift. And then it's been very nice having her mom. Her mom got a one-way ticket. She's been with us since a couple days before we went in and had her induced, and she's been staying with us. She also recently got out of a relationship that no longer served her, and I've been trying to get her to date again.
Ooh.
Natalie's mom. And Natalie's mom, for those of you who don't know, is a very stunning, beautiful lady. No surprise, she's the mother of Natalie. And I wanted her to get back out there, get on the dating apps. I DM'd the founder of the league.
Oh wow.
And I was like, because Natalie got her to sign up on the league. Now, I don't know if this is something that the league does. For those who don't know, the league is it's like Raya, except for like business professionals. The reason I felt more comfortable with it, because to my knowledge, the league and Raya are the only dating apps that you have to verify who you are.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just be somebody.
You have to get accepted.
You have to get accepted. Yeah, it's a bit prestigious and stuffy, but it was more like you have to verify who you are. You can't
Mhm.
just other apps you can catfish, things like that. Anyways, I DM'd them. They didn't actually respond to me, but when she signed up, she was like
100,000.
100,000 people are in front of her.
Mine.
I DM'd her, no response from the founder, but the next day she was approved and on the app. So if that person did something, thank you. If not, either way, it might have been something that they just do. You know how like at a club they make you wait in line and then you walk in, the club's kind of empty.
They just want to show you how prestigious the app is.
So that could have been it as well. But she's been on the dating apps a little bit,
Ooh,
and she's doing FaceTime dates now.
Oh,
You know?
good.
exciting.
So babysitter by day and dater by night.
Is the baby in the FaceTimes with her?
No,
My mom takes her at 6 a.m. and
that's been really helpful.
and we sleep till 8, 9, 10 sometimes on the weekends. Nick is very like he looks so peaceful over there, but the second I'm like, "Hey Nick," he's like, "Yes, baby, how can I help you?"
Oh,
"Yes, my love." He like jumps up and he's like, "What can I do?" And he typically will go out and make the bottles and I'll stay with her and then we'll go into her nursery and take care of her. And sometimes her second shift is around like 4 or 5. So if
Mhm.
it's 5, I'll stay in there for an hour and just like rock her. And then my mom will come in at 6 and I'll go back to bed and crash for a few hours. But so I think the survival mode of the first 2 weeks hasn't been as bad as what some people experience with no help. So I feel definitely very blessed.
Yeah, it's
to
been
have my
very
mom.
nice to have Natalie's mom. The help is certainly appreciated.
A lot of LA moms very much encouraged us to get a night nurse, which we thought about. And then I talked to my sister, who I've talked about on this show. She struggled with IVF, had one baby, and has struggled since. She tried to adopt. They told her she was too old to
oh
adopt.
my God.
So she's just really struggled. She has this one beautiful daughter, and who actually River's named after. And she was like, "Natalie, you will hear that baby cry. Your nipples will start tweaking. This nurse will bring the baby in to feed and then take her away. And like, what, you just fall back asleep? Like, there's just no way that
Right.
you're going to let a stranger hold your baby. They're only this small for so long."
Oh,
and
well,
like-
what she said is they're only that small for that day.
Yeah.
Which is so true.
Mhm.
And I can't speak for any other father out there, but like, I just can't, like, I don't care how tired I am at 1:30 in the morning, but it's the best fucking time of my life to like feed her. And, I play like, I've been playing like classical music on my phone, I'll feed her and just play like Mozart or Bach or Beethoven because that, we're just trying to get those brain muscles going.
She's gonna be smart.
Yeah, we'll
Just for
see.
that,
Or
yeah.
not. It's either way. It's a delightful vibe.
Well, Nick, you mentioned this earlier in the hospital when you saw the shift in Natalie become a mom. What's been the best part about seeing each other become parents? Has your love for each other grown?
Oh my God.
sure
I
it
thought-
has.
Natalie looks like sexy in a different way. Even when she's like breastfeeding. Like, to be totally honest, like, I didn't know what to expect or think or feel once I saw my daughter sucking on Natalie's boob. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, before River was born, I'm thinking that's going to be different, But there is something stimulating in a weird, like that's hot, Like, just Natalie being a mom to my daughter is sexy. I don't know how else to describe it, And it's just been like, just seeing her be a mom has just been like a really huge turn on. Like, I don't mean that in like some sort of like creepy way,
There's like an admiration to it, right?
Yeah.
It's just like hot, It's a very attractive thing.
Have you tried the breast milk?
I will not. No, unnecessary. I'm not and then like a doctor was like, "So you want to eat the placenta?" I'm like, "No." And she's like, "Yeah, well, I just wanted to ask, but
People do that.
no, I know.
Yeah.
Not recommended by the CDC."
So you don't still have your placenta.
No.
No, it was discarded
Okay.
Mm.
afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did donate her
Cord
cord
blood.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. But her doctor did say there is no scientific
benefit.
to eating your placenta.
Okay.
Again, we're not here to yuck
Noted.
anyone's yum.
Put it in those
Noted.
capsules and take it away. But yeah.
There was one point where I was asking a nurse, I'm like, "So why would someone like not get an epidural?" And again, I'm not here to give medical advice or yuck anyone's yum, but the nurse goes, I don't know.
Truly. I don't know either.
But I laughed.
Yeah, just to know.
Yeah.
I mean, my mom didn't with all of us, all
Wow.
4 of us. And
I don't think my mom either.
she said it was, I think, more so because she didn't know if they could afford it.
Mm.
But she was like, watching you give, she was like, fuck, I wish I would have done it. Like that, it looked like such a breeze.
Yeah.
Natalie,
it's
what's been the best part about seeing Nick become a dad?
I didn't think I could love him anymore. You know, I thought like, all right, this is peak love for sure. But yeah, watching him, I mean, the way he jumps up in the middle of the night, the way even my mom is like, I am so impressed by just how much Nick like is involved, wants to be involved. He has no problem doing anything, you know, changing poop. He like loves to change a poopy diaper. He has his little routine. He's really good at the leg exercises of like moving her gas along and getting her to fart and then go to the bath. You know, like he's very
I'm
good
an
at
excellent swaddler.
He's a great swaddler. He's practiced. He's perfected it. So I think just watching him really indulge himself in dad life and crush it. And like, I unfortunately do not have a relationship with my dad. He wasn't really there when I was a kid. I don't have a lot of memories. And I just constantly look at River and I'm like, you are so lucky. Like, you have such a great dad. And I just like, I can't wait for her to grow up and for her. I've always seen like my friends, you know, do any sort of thing with their dad, whether it's like prom or sports or anything. And I never had that. And so I'm like, you're going to have like such a good cheerleader and a supporter. And I just can't like, I just want to give him more babies because I'm like, you're just such a good dad. Everyone deserves to be your child. Truly.
Thanks.
So, yeah.
Whew.
You guys are making me cry over here.
It's been a lot. It's been very,
But she's so
very
much fun to
emotional.
watch. And we've been lucky. She is pretty even tempered. You know, it's been pretty easy going. I mean, it got to the point where like, River was crying and we get a little like, oh shit, and I had to like be like, well, she's a baby. She is going to cry because she's been so easygoing so far, which we know isn't always the case.
Mm-hmm.
My parents reminded me that that wasn't the case with me. But I did have to tell Natalie, like, hey, like, I was a sick kid. I was a sick baby. Even like as an adolescent, I was allergic to life. I remember my doctor saying I got sinus infections what felt like every month. I was an asthma kid. I got pneumonia a couple times. But as an adult, I'm an incredibly healthy adult. And I just pointed it out to Natalie because it's like at some point, so far River's coming out looking beautiful. Like not every baby, looks the same. And we've been very blessed. She just looks very symmetrical. She's been very healthy. Like the biggest complication so far is she's been a little jaundice, but we've been very, very lucky in that department where we just have not had a lot to worry about so far. But I just had to try to hey, someday, babe, we're going to be told that River has something as maybe like I had an impetigo, like a skin problem. I felt like everything, but I don't know what River's going to have to deal with. But she's going to have something where it's going to be like hard for us to like, oh my God. But kids get her out of that shit. We've just been very lucky that I was trying to just in case something does happen, it will still be fine. We'll work through it. We'll get through it because at some point she's going to get sick. At some point we'll find out that she has some sort of condition or whatever it is, and we'll just get through it. But so far we've been very lucky. Well, let's take a quick break. I think the household has a couple of rapid fire questions that some listeners submitted. Let's do texting office hours first, and we'll come back. We'll do some rapid fire questions, and we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, we've got questions.
All right. Gooder. All right. Hey, listen, do you like sunglasses, or do you have some fashion friends, or maybe you're just a glasswearer like Allie is? Maybe you have a forgetful mind, or you lose things, or you break things, or maybe you just don't take the best care of your stuff. Like myself, I stopped buying super expensive glasses a long time ago because I just tend to lose them. Well, the people at Gooder, well, they design glasses just for you. Gooder makes $25 active sunglasses that don't slip, don't bounce, and are 100% polarized. Look at these fashion frames. Look at how good they look. These are the blue light glasses. Also, I refer to them as fashion frames. Thank you, Justin Long.
But they're not even just fashion frames, because fashion frames, they look good, and these are good for you because you're staring at a screen all day. You don't want that going into your eyes. But what I love about Gooder is not only do they have your original, favorite styles of sunglasses that are at such excellent prices, because I like to go some places with my sunglasses. I take them on trips. I wear them on the jet ski. They fall off. They leave. You need new ones. Or sometimes you just want to spice up your wardrobe. They have them at such reasonable prices that you can keep refreshing your wardrobe or replacing ones that you forget in a hotel room somewhere. And my favorite part about Gooder is that you can actually shop by sport. So if you're a runner or a golfer or a cyclist or pickleball player and you need some sunglasses, they have those for you.
And if you break them, no worry. They're $25. I'm blown away because I have gone to a lot of sunglasses stores and they charge outrageous prices, $500, $400, $300, $200, $1,000. And I'm holding a pair of Gooder glasses right now, and I honestly can't tell the difference. Don't overspend on frames. It's like, if you like wasting money, do that. If you don't like wasting money, go to Gooder. Let Gooder meet your eyewear glass needs. They're 100% polarized for only $25. They're lightweight, and we love how comfortable they are. You can't even feel them on your face. If you want to support the show and pick up a pair, Gooder is giving the Viall File listeners free shipping on your first order. So you can go to gooder.com, that's GOODR.com/VIALL, and use code VIALL to get free shipping. Gooder offers a 30-day money-back guarantee and 100% satisfaction. Find your pair at gooder.com/VIALL and use code VIALL to get free shipping. How's it going?
It's going. How are you?
Good. What's your name?
I'm Olivia. I'm 29.
And how can we help, Olivia?
I'm grieving my own wedding after my aunt sabotaged it.
Okay. Wow. Did you actually get married?
Yes.
Okay. So when you say sabotaged the wedding, you felt like your aunt ruined your wedding?
Yes. And months later, I'm still feel like I'm going through the grieving process of it.
Okay. Well, tell us more. What's going on? What happened?
I got engaged in August of 2021. It was a really great time. I felt like I was very supported by friends and family. And then through the planning process, I learned who was really there for me and who wasn't. Things were pretty great leading up to the wedding with my aunt for the most part. Throughout the journey of wedding planning, I had lost my best friend over a conflict. There was some drama on my dad's side of the family. And so my aunt and uncle were very supportive through all of it. And I kind of leaned on them throughout the process. And my uncle was a groomsman because he's really close with my husband. And my aunt, she was really excited to be included. And so we had asked her to help kind of be our day of coordinator. We had a really small wedding, less than 75 people. The only reason we needed someone was because our venue required it. And she was more than willing to take on that task. It wasn't much responsibility. And she helped so much throughout the process. The day before, she was there early in the morning setting up. The day of the wedding, she was there helping. But after the ceremony is when things kind of took a turn for the worse. We had our first dance, and I noticed that my mom came in really upset. I had went up to my mom asking what was wrong because clearly something was up. She was upset about something. And my mom said, "Don't worry about it. I want you to go mingle, go see your friends you haven't seen in a while," because we had a lot of people come from out of state. And it just kept bothering me. And then I wanted to dedicate my bouquet to my mom. So I was able to do that. And while I was dancing with my mom, she kind of broke down and told me that my aunt was really upset. They had kind of yelled at her outside of the venue, saying that she didn't feel included and that we had left her out and that they had to scrimp and save to be part of our day and that we did not take their feelings into consideration. And I have had no contact with them since my wedding day, and it's been about 4 months.
So including your uncle who was a groomsman?
Yes, and my uncle is my mom's brother.
Okay.
So she is engaged to my uncle, yes.
Okay, so she's like your aunt by marriage. And technically not your aunt yet?
Yeah, not my aunt yet. They actually got engaged after our wedding around Christmas time. So we have not been able to celebrate that with them at all. I kind of found out through my brother.
And is your mom's brother, sounds like he's supporting his now fiance and not speaking with you?
Yes, they won't communicate with us at all. They will talk to my brother. My brother is very close to them. They talk a lot about football, sports betting, anything like that. They're really close. So my brother kind of feels like he's in the middle of it. So they will communicate with him, but they will not communicate with my mom or I. My mom did apologize that night at the wedding, saying she was sorry they felt that way. That was never our intentions, that they didn't feel included.
Does your uncle also feel that way? I mean, he was a groomsman, and most uncles aren't.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that from what I had heard, he was taking up for her because he was included in pictures. He had been a big part of the process, and she had as well. She had helped plan my bridal shower, my bachelorette party. She was there to pick out the dress with me. So I kind of was just blindsided by her feelings in all of this. Again, my mom had reached out to them around Christmas and had asked if they wanted to talk and exchange gifts because my mom's just that kind of person, and they told my mom no. And then my mom and brother were also in the hospital recently for separate reasons, and they just did not care. I found out from a friend last week, actually, that my friend ran into my aunt in the middle of the grocery store, and my aunt was not saying very nice things about me and just spreading these things. And it just bothers me. I don't know how to move on because the day wasn't about her.
Yeah. Well, what are you struggling with the most, I guess is my question. What part about this is most upsetting to you?
Seeing how hurt my mom is because she feels like she lost her brother, and how they're not willing to sit down and have a conversation. My end goal is I don't know if I really want to reconcile with them. I mean, I'm still pretty hurt of the drama that they caused, but I want things to be normal with them and my mom because I feel like she's missing out a lot.
Yeah. Okay. So I have thoughts. These are just my opinions. Totally get where you're coming from. But like, as much as you can, like, I don't know if this really has to affect your wedding. You're still married. You and your husband, you guys are good?
We are.
Yeah.
We are. It's been good.
And minus the drama at the end, was the wedding pretty fun? You had a good time? You know, I know that's a lasting thought and, but like, other than that, good stuff. Like, you had fun, your vows were beautiful.
Yeah, it was a good day. The rain held off for the most part, and that was a big stress. There was definitely beautiful parts to look back on and remember.
I guess what I'm saying is just remember what the point of that day was. And that day was for you and your husband to get married. And that happened. And a lot of people had a great time. And yeah, there was some drama there that was upsetting to you. And I totally get that. But be careful not to ruin the memory of your wedding because there's this one situation that happened. And that's kind of entirely up to you in terms of how much energy you focus. Right now, I get it. It's upsetting. Your mom's not talking to her brother. Your aunt has proven to be someone you didn't think she was. I get why you're upset, but that doesn't take away from what happened at your wedding. But you're just focusing your energy on your aunt, and that's taking away from the memory of your wedding. And so I think that just comes down to your perspective. Your aunt, she's throwing a temper tantrum. She's throwing an adult temper tantrum. And to me, this is a form of manipulation and bullying, the silent treatment, the ignoring, the talking behind your back. Without knowing your uncle, I would give him a little grace because everyone wants to stand up for their girl. Everyone wants to have their partner's back. And I don't know what she's saying to him, but I would be willing to at least be open to the possibility that while he's wrong for his actions, that his intentions are to be a good partner, even though they might be misguided. Because I think at the end of the day, it sounds like without knowing a lot of the details that he's probably just wanting to stand up for his partner. He wants to be there for his girl. As misguided as his actions might be, this is more to do with her actions, and him just thinking he is being a good partner to her. Even though, from your end, it seems like kind of shitty, but he is just choosing to have her back, which, you would probably want from your husband, and so it sucks that this is the result, but like the blame I feel goes much more on her than him. And listen, she's just being a bully. Okay. She's being an emotional bully with the whole not talking to you and the silent treatment and things like that. It's how people try to control other people. And I think you just got to look at it that way. That's all she's doing is just trying to control the narrative. She's throwing a temper tantrum. Let's just be real. Like, it's your wedding and she's making your wedding about her, which so let her throw her fucking temper tantrum. I mean, honestly, as much as you could, I wouldn't her ignoring you, she's getting the result that she wants. You know what I'm saying? She knows you're asking about them. You and your mom are giving her the opportunity to ignore you two by reaching out. So stop reaching out, stop trying. You know what? They don't want to be in your life, so be it. I know it's sad. Her brother will come around eventually. I mean, if she is this self-centered, it's going to pop up. And eventually, I think your uncle will realize what he's dealing with, is my guess.
I hope so. Sorry, go ahead.
I know this is all easier said than done, but I would just say eventually he's going to come around. But in the meantime, the more you try to reconcile with her and him, the more energy you're giving her and more focus you're giving to what she did at your wedding rather than enjoying your wedding itself.
Okay.
And I would just look at it, just be like, hey, right now she's throwing a temper tantrum. I don't know how long she's going to throw it, but that's her problem. And eventually, when you stop giving them the attention and you stop trying, I don't know when. Eventually, when you stop caring and giving a shit and acknowledging her temper tantrum, then they'll start like peeking their head up and wondering why you're not paying attention to them anymore.
She had posted lots of stuff on social media about us. I had blocked it from seeing it just for my mental health.
Yeah.
So I don't really see it much anymore, but
I can't imagine anyone who is listening to your aunt talk shit about you. Like I guarantee you she is embarrassing herself more than she's embarrassing you. I know it always sucks to know that someone's out there talking shit about you, but no reasonable person is going to hear her bullshit and think to themselves, yeah, her wedding was about you. You're right. You have the like, what the fuck? Like she's not even your aunt. You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's true.
She was there to help, and you included her and helped her, and like it's like this self-centered person who truly is describing your wedding is their day, and that's how she's coming across to any reasonable person. Short of her friends that are just going to have her back because any casual acquaintance that you guys might both have isn't taking her side. So just go forward with confidence that she is only making herself look foolish. She is not making you or your mom look foolish.
Okay. No, that's good to know. When she's saying things like the only thing that they had to pay for was the tux, because he was a groomsman. But when she's saying that she had to like scrimp and save to be part of it, that they're going on like a $4,000 cruise this year, my mom's just like eager to pay them back.
For what?
For for like them renting a tux and
they're
just their contributions. Like
they're just complaining for the sake of complaining. You know what I'm saying? We let a people have to travel for our wedding. They are welcome to show up. They're welcome not to show up. We hope most of them can, but we understand there's a cost there. We're not fitting their travel bill. Spoiler: our wedding is black tie. Everyone has to wear a tux. I'm not getting people tuxes. It's our wedding. This is the wedding we want. It's the aesthetic that how we want to look. We're inviting people we want to come. We understand there's a cost associated with it. We're not going to take it against anyone who's like, hey, we can't afford it. And if they want to come, I don't want to fucking hear how much it costs them. And if they complain to me, I don't give a fuck. It's our wedding. But like
I love
everyone's
it.
Not like that. And so again, they're just people who fucking bitch. And that's how I think what you need to really remember is that she's embarrassing herself. The more she talks, the more she complains, she's just embarrassing herself. And so everything you are doing, block her on social media, ignore her, let her throw her temper tantrum. And the more attention you give her, the more she will keep complaining and talking shit. And the more you and your mom give the vibe that you're just like over it, whatever, I promise you eventually she'll come around. She is reacting to your reaction of feeling bad. So
yeah, that all sounds really good. It feels good to be justified with like blocking her and not giving into it.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to see her post and be like, you're wrong, that you're the one that caused the drama and you're the one that caused this hurt and heartache. And
she doesn't want your mom's money. She just wants to complain about it. And what she wants is your mom to say, well, I'll pay your back. So then she could say, no, I don't want your money. It's not even about that. She's just fucking bitching. So your mom needs to just stop offering her money she doesn't deserve anyways. And I'm sorry that their financial situation isn't great. Maybe they should figure their shit out. Maybe they should be better with their money. I don't fucking know their problem, but that's a them problem. It's not a you problem. And she didn't have to come to your wedding. And at the end of the day, I'm we're not throwing a wedding for other people. And we didn't take everyone's, we didn't like, before we invite you, what can you afford? What's your financial situation? I don't care. You know, we're going to throw the wedding we want. And I'm sorry if people call us selfish for that.
Nick is very passionate about this.
Because you hear so many stories like this, and like you said, it's amazing how many people are willing to make your wedding about them. It's unbelievable, but every wedding has it. So all you can do is set that boundary with yourself. Like you said, people will reveal who they are, but when they do, don't react to it. Just accept it. All right, I guess I didn't expect this from you, but fuck it. I guess this is who you are. I've never made it someone else's wedding about me. That's absurd to me, but that's just me. Be thankful for what you do have, and which is you had a great wedding, you have a great marriage. Family will always disappoint you. You know, you have to love them because they're your family. You don't have to always like them. I don't like all of my family. I love them all. I'll do anything for my family, but I would do anything for all my family members, but I wouldn't have dinner with all of them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's just like, you have different personalities, but don't let them guilt you into not enjoying the most special day of your life, and it doesn't take away from the connection you have with your husband. And they just used your wedding. They were going to make something about them at some point. It just happened to be your wedding. It was convenient for them. It's not your fault. If it wasn't going to be your wedding, they would have picked another time, but that was their opportunity to do that. So again, it just it revealed more about them, and it doesn't help having to accept the difficulties of disappointing family members, but don't give them the power by obsessing over the disappointment you have. Rather just be grateful and just say, hey, you know what? It is what it is.
Just shift your mindset and just look at, you married the love of your life. You are happy in your marriage, and not focus on the other people that were there. It's really up to you at this point, because you can't go back and yell at them for what they did or have them take back what they did. It's more so just, how do you move forward? And that's by focusing on where you are now.
Final thought is just nothing about this wedding, nothing about your family members' actions was your fault. So don't let them make you feel like it was your wedding that caused any of this. It wasn't the case. So hopefully that was helpful.
No, that's good feedback.
Give us an update if anything changes. All right. Rapid fire questions before we wrap.
All right. So before we wrap, we put out a Q&A on Instagram, and we had a bunch of people write in with questions, and we picked a few. This question was something that came up pretty often. And as you know, I am pregnant. So this is something that has been a big struggle for me.
Yay.
And
Leia's pregnant, everyone.
They've passed the torch.
Yes.
So yeah, this is something that has been a big struggle for me. And this question's for Natalie. What advice would you give to people who are pregnant or postpartum who are struggling with their body image?
I struggled a lot. I had a really hard time. I think just because I've been this same size my whole adult life. And so to all of a sudden, none of my clothes fit anymore. I gained close to 50 pounds in my pregnancy. It's a mind fuck. It's really hard to separate the two and be like, okay, no, but I'm growing, because it's for me, it was very mentally hard. And I had obviously no idea how hard or easy it would be to lose it after I gave birth. But obviously I wanted a healthy baby. I, listened to my doctors, and the 50 pounds, they weren't worried. A lot of it was that extra fluid that I had. And so postpartum, I have obviously been breastfeeding. They say that shrinks your uterus. And I've lost over 20 pounds in 2 weeks. It really just kind of falls off you for me. So I haven't really struggled with it as much postpartum as I did during my pregnancy, but you really just got to focus on you're growing a human being, and they need everything from you, and you have to give everything to this baby, and you just got to kind of let yourself, unfortunately, but you get it back.
Well, thank you. That's really helpful to hear.
Yeah. And then we have a fun question. How was your first shit, and did you shave?
Okay, first of all, the shit is nothing. Take the Miralax in the hospital. Your first sneeze after birth is a lot scarier than your first shit. Okay, so Nick hates that I call it a shit. He's like, just say you have to go to the bathroom.
She was like, River has to shit. I'm like, what?
What would you
She's
rather her
shitting
say?
already?
Poop, feces?
He likes bathroom.
Go to the bathroom.
She has to
Okay.
go to the bathroom.
I don't know. We need a description. You know?
Potty.
We don't need to color commentate our bowel movements.
But yeah, so take your Miralax in the hospital and it is truly, truly nothing. Shaving, no, the fuck I did not. Because, first of all, you can't see anything. It's so hard to try. Also, you can't see anything. You nick yourself. Then now you have an open wound and you're
Mhm.
baby's coming out. I just didn't want to risk it. They also don't fucking care. No one in that operating room is like, oh my fucking God, she's a bush. Gross. No one's saying that. Especially someone who I have worked in surgery and I have seen a lot of pubic hair. No one cares. No one cares if you have shaved, if you have a landing strip, where no one's talking about it. A lot of people told me to wax before, but I was uncomfortable enough in my 3rd trimester. I didn't need to get waxed. So she was bushing.
Period.
And you know what? Bushing and proud, baby.
Good.
Period.
Good.
Period.
What was in your hospital bag?
I packed so much shit in my hospital bag and did not use pretty much any of it. All I used was the fan that can wrap around the hospital bed arms, which you can also use as a stroller fan later on. So it was double whammy. I used that. I brought my own pillow and blanket, which Nick forgot my pillow and I sobbed about it for the first 2 nights that we got home.
I don't know if I forgot about it, but sure.
No one grabbed it and it was really hard for me to grasp. My own pillow and blanket, compression socks, because you're obviously laying in a bed for a really long time. So you want to just keep all that. And that's really it. Your baby, I packed so many outfits for her and she's got these ankle wrap, all her bands around her ankles. You can't put her in your own clothes. They're checking her. It's just a lot easier to be in the hospital gown and you're also bleeding everywhere. I didn't want to get that on my clothes. So I overpacked a lot, but you really only need the minimum.
Cool.
Right.
And then what was your first meal leaving the hospital?
Well, right after I gave birth, it was late. And so we ordered Taco Bell. And it was honestly disgusting.
Yes.
It was a letdown.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next day, I had Jimmy John's sandwich, which is all I really wanted. A deli Italian sub, Jimmy
Classic.
John's.
That's a
It
good
was
one.
Perfect. Yeah. I had it a couple days after.
Yummy. And then our final question is, how's it been with the dogs?
It's been fine.
Lovely.
They are very curious. They smell her a lot.
We're not sleeping with them right now, which is harder on me. And, well, it's hard on them too, but hard on me. But they've been sleeping with Grandma.
Yeah.
And we have a gate up to we separated them a little bit, from River at first. We just don't, we don't let them in the nursery. They do try to sneak in. So we have a little bit of separation from them. But I have a picture of the first night being there and they, slowly came up and I was feeding River and they just lied next to me. You can tell they're very curious and very protective of her. Steve seems more protective of River than Jeff. Jeff is our first, right? Our firstborn. And Jeff, we call him Jealous Jeff. And we got Jealous Jeff Steve in preparation for River. And when we got Steve, at first, Jeff was annoyed, as you might expect. They're now good friends, but it took a couple weeks. Steve always had Jeff. So when we brought River home, the vibe we got for Jeff was kind of all right, well, I had to deal with Steve. I guess I'll deal with River. It's kind of the energy Jeff's giving, I just get a sense from Steve that Steve's been way more affectionate since we brought River home, even with us, than he was before we brought River home, which is kind of really cute. But overall, they've both been wonderful. Yeah. And our pediatrician said studies show that families with dogs somehow decrease the risk of any type of respiratory illnesses with your babies.
Interesting.
So
because they
whether
get used to the.
I don't know. Do not know, but he did say that. So made us feel good.
Good to know. That was all the questions
Yeah,
we have
that's
right now.
Amazing. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Next week on Going Deeper, we have reality TV royalty Candy Burris is with us to do her Bravo exit interview, which was a ton of fun. So I hope you guys tune in for that. I love you, by the way.
Love you.
You're an amazing mom.
Thanks. You're an amazing dad.
All right. Well, love you guys for listening. Thank you for supporting. Bye. Hey guys, if you loved what you listened to, make sure you hit that subscribe button below. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.